So today is not only Bruce's 73rd birthday, it's also his celebration of life. And we came out, tell our stories, say our goodbyes, friends, food, which is of course the best part, and just to get together and celebrate and say our goodbyes. Thank you.
This is video, so you don't have to talk.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Hiya, Judy. Or just introduce yourself and say hi.
My name's Greg Mertz, and I've been a longtime friend of Bruce's. We've been riding Harleys together. Bruce, we always remember Bruce as a gentleman, and we miss him. We miss him every day. Thank you.
And Mike and Shannon, we know Bruce from riding Harleys. Wonderful guy, and just miss him terribly.
Thank you. Want to say something?
Paul and Mitzi Schumann. Where's Mitzi?
Oh, okay, there's Mitzi.
Yeah, we used to ride with Bruce. Plus, I used to be his old neighbor over at Captiva K, so I've known Bruce for 20 years. Yeah, so, yeah.
Thank you. Want to say something?
Well, sure. Randy Piper, I've ridden with Bruce a few times, and he was right there where I launched my boat and helped me on several occasions. In fact, the first time I ever launched the boat, he was there and helped me along with Brooks, so that was very fun.
Thank you.
This is John Templeton Sr. I'm the better looking of the John Templeton.
Oh, that's true.
So it's a sad day, but he was a good man and just had massive influence on a lot of people's lives. Miss you, Bruce.
Templeton Jr. Glad to be here to honor Bruce on a beautiful day and a beautiful guy. So thank you, Bruce, for everything. And I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Angie Morris. I was a really good friend of Bruce, and this is bittersweet for me. But I'm loving seeing some of these people here and seeing how everybody has just gone on with their lives and flourished and had babies, and it's just beautiful to me.
Thank you. And you guys?
I'm Jessica Razzle, and this is Wade. Brooke, we're so happy to be here to just honor Bruce. I would probably not be here today or the person I am if it wasn't for Bruce. So we're just here happy to celebrate.
What do you want me to say? You want me to get a testimonial to how great a person Bruce Murakami was, right?
Yep, something like that.
Well, I'm here today at, what's this place? Walsingham Park, right? In shelter, who knows whatever, because, hey, they got a million of them. We happened upon the right one.
Worked well.
Yes, worked well. So we meet all of these people and everything, and you won't find a person here that doesn't have a great thing to say about Bruce or how he met them. So, R.I.P. my friend, and we should have put a volcano in over there. And some palm trees so that you would have felt right at home. Aloha, buddy.
Like to say anything?
Aloha.
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 Good thing to say. Thank you. Scooter. Uncle Scooter, you want to say something?
Uncle Scooter. Hey Bruce, miss you. Wish you were here. You know, in honor of you, I actually wore my Waikiki t-shirt that you got me when you guys were on your trip. So I hope you're doing well in heaven, and we really miss you guys.
Thank you. Zane?
Yeah, gonna miss my buddy. You know, we did a lot together. Used to go to lunches. Get to talk about the world. And without you in it, it's definitely changed. So we miss you.
Thank you.
Bruce, we miss you. You've been a great friend and a client for over 15 years. Can't believe you're gone, but you'll be in my memories forever.
Hello, Mr. Terrence. How are you today?
Kurt, you want to say something about Bruce?
I met Bruce at the very beginning of owning Moto2, and we became fast friends. I towed a lot of bikes for him. One of his bikes was famous for being on my truck in front of Quaker Steak and Lube. We made a big poster out of it, and he loved it. I loved it. It was one of the most gorgeous bikes I'd ever seen. Bruce and I have been friends for years. miss him dearly. You come across Facebook posts and he's on there, had liked something or commented, and it just crushes me every time I read it. Happy birthday, Bruce.
Want to say something?
Sure, my name's Maury. I don't know that we've met, but
We haven't yet.
I actually was introduced to Bruce through a St. Pete Beach officer by the name of Scott Vaughn, and in regards to the tragedy that happened to his life prior, and that's how I got to know about Bruce and what he did for that program, the community. So it's just it's a shock, an unfortunate event, but you know, that's. We never really, I do remember his red FBI bike, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Every now and again, me and my partner at work would pull into Ricky T's and have breakfast with him, and Brooke sometimes was there, and good times, so I'm gonna miss him.
Hey, who you are? I'm Bob Sissio.
I'm Lisa Sissio.
We've known Bruce for quite some time, so we knew Bruce when he first came down, and he lived in Tampa, and he was married to Cindy at the time.
Yep.
So that's where we first met Bruce.
Wow, longtime friends then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys go, Chuck, get a hold of that. And John will tell you
Maybe a little bit about how you met, who you are, and how you met Bruce, that kind of stuff.
Dennis Campbell, Kathy Budge. We met Bruce through Reverend Jim. We were racing for orphans. He came out. He's a very, very kind gentleman that offered his time and his help doing things for the kids. We had 4 years, 5 years. With Bruce. Racing for orphans? 6 years. Yeah, how long was Bruce racing? 5 years. 5 years. So Bruce was with us for 5 years. It was a great run, and he got his help in many different directions, and because of our Racing for Orphans thing, Bruce actually came to work for me for the new company car, and was very instrumental in helping us expand our reach and do some nice things to help our drivers and riders be safer in transportation. And just a wonderful, wonderful guy. We miss him.
The kindest man I've met. And I worked with him with Colorado.
You guys know that France.
He's here with us now. He'll forever be our friend.
Well, at least he got that last Christmas. That's true. Good.
Thank you.
Who's that?
I'm sure he's touched each and every one of our lives, obviously, because we're here right now all together. And I would just like to take this moment to invite anybody that's got anything great to say, just to come up here and say it. And we appreciate everything that everybody has done so far. So the mic is open. And you don't have to come up here if you just want to shout out. That's good too.
I'll say something.
Hey everybody, I'm Dave Romine. I met Bruce, I don't know how many years ago. Of course, it was at a fundraiser for a charity. And what else you're gonna find that guy at? And if you look at all of the pictures up here, one of the things I noticed was he's smiling at every one of them. And they're in a frown, or even when he's almost not smiling, he's still smiling. And he was a heck of a guy. I was 50 years in law enforcement, and over that length of time, I came a little bit pretty good at picking out the good guys and the bad guys. This was a good guy. We lost a good one. And heart as big as a basketball. And just a wonderful man. I was really impressed with him the first time I met him, and that just continued on through. And I'm sure there's a bunch of stories out there. I don't have a bunch of them. I just want to say how much Bruce impressed me is how big his heart was, and what a forgiving nature he had, and just what a great person he was. So, thanks.
Hi, my name is Angie, and my husband and I were friends of Bruce's. I did not have any tragedy in my life. I just became his friend. And I knew Bruce before he forgave. And we were just talking about that I will always feel in my heart, and Bruce and I talked about this, that in a way, Bruce was saved. He was so big-hearted and had such a capacity to forgive and to love other people. And it touched me, and it touched people I knew, and he put me in very difficult situations sometimes with very angry people. But I'm glad that I did those things with him, because knowing Bruce, I got to know Brooke. Where is she? I know Brooke. And it's been a real journey, and I still have trouble really comprehending that he's not here. It's really hard for me, because I would get weirdo texts from him sometimes, and he would always ask. I was telling them that sometimes he'd send me things, news articles, and say, "What do you think about this person?" or "What do you think?" And I did not have his capacity to understand some of this stuff, but I do hope that, in a way, that we all continue to do what Bruce did and be compassionate and to love each other and to be there for people that are going through horrible times. So I don't know all of you, but I love you because you love Bruce. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is this thing on? Yep. Okay. Huh? Okay. I'm Grandpa Bill from way up northern Michigan, the UP of Michigan. About 2 hours north of Green Bay, Wisconsin. You guys may have heard of that little town. And sorry, Bucks fans, but I am an avid Packer fan. Too bad. Good. It'll be interesting maybe to see if once again the Packers and the Bucks play at Lambeau. As a Packer fan, we hope for a different result, though. When Bruce and Brooke were married about 8 years ago, it suddenly occurred to me that I acquired a son-in-law that was only 8 years younger than his new father-in-law. I always thought that father-in-laws were supposed to impart words of wisdom to their son-in-law, and I'm not sure if that occurred with Bruce. But in any event, I have a story, and I'm going to call it my poop story. Just you guys kind of mull that one over. Well, before I get to my poop story, though, on a real serious note, the one overarching memory that I have of Bruce is his absolute dedication to his two boys, Grant and Henry. That was evident every week. He was taking them places and monster jams and train shows and this kind of thing. Just absolute lovable dedication to those two boys. Now to my poop story. I think Grant was maybe, I'm not sure if he was a year old quite, maybe, but of course Brooke was working, had to work. Bruce had to visit a job site, so I was entrusted with Grant to babysit. Well, of course, both Grant and I held Grant, and both of us fell asleep. Well, I awakened, though, to a couple little grunts, and I wasn't real sure what all that meant. So I decided that maybe I better take a peek in his diaper. Now, mind you, I hadn't changed diapers in decades. And so I took my little peek, and now sure enough, there was something in there. He had done his business. And just at that moment, Bruce walked in. And I said, hey, Bruce, I think Grant needs a change of diapers. So he said, okay, let's the two of us do this. So we laid Grant out on the floor and pulled down his pants and pulled open the diaper. Well, it just wasn't a little poop at all. I mean, it was an explosion. And Bruce hollered laughing, and he told me, he said, okay, Grandpa, he's all yours. And I'm turning around, I said, oh no, we aren't going to do that. So between the two of us, we changed, but it was a sight, to be honest. I have another little story. This just popped into my head. Grant Grant wasn't born yet. Henry and Bruce and Brooke came up to visit in the frozen north. I think it was probably mid-February, so we had a lot of snow. And I always remember, I picked them up at the Green Bay Airport, and we had already planned that they were getting in at such a time that we could have lunch, so we had lunch at Lambeau Field. Well, I don't believe Henry even knew what snow was. And as soon as we got out of the car, Henry just dove into one of the snowbanks outside of Lambeau. Well, Bruce had a heck of a time trying to get him inside because we're all hungry. And I think it was probably the next day, we were outside my place. Now, I live on the shoreline of really the northern shore of Lake Michigan. And we had plenty of snow, so I was going to build my favorite snowman. So I got out there with Henry, and we rolled the balls together. One, we rolled it was a little too large, so I got Bruce to help me lift it up. Finally built this snowman, and most of us grab a carrot, we shove it in the snowman's face. That's kind of the tradition for a nose. Well, I turned around, walked inside, and came back out, and the carrot was missing. Okay, what's going on here? I'm searching all over the yard for it. I probably spent 10 minutes. I finally hollered to Bruce. I said, I can't find my carrot. And Bruce got a grin on his face, and he said, I think I know where it is. So he hollered at Henry. Henry was a little embarrassed. Henry had taken this thing, flung it almost out, where the water line used to be. It was frozen, of course, and there's my carrot. Well, Bruce had a very interesting chat back in a bedroom with Henry. Henry was not too happy, but well, I could go on and on. There's all kinds of these little stories that I remember Bruce, but once again, that overriding dedication that I witnessed time and time again with those two boys.
Bruce was one of the guys we should have celebrated the most. My name is Reverend Jim. Really not that kind of reverend, but I got one of them $5 cards and I can marry it. Years ago, I'm not sure that or if many of you people know about the accident that Bruce endured, but I met him shortly after that. As we kind of trod through what life has become in America, we've seen the decline of what a role model may or may not be, whether they're sports or entertainment or whatever they are. The common courtesy, values, morals, and the absolute compassion that we should all share, every one of us, was something that Bruce had. And he had an abundance of it for everybody. As my kids grew up, they knew Bruce, only through all of the events. Had a promotion company, and I helped Bruce with safe team drivers. That's how I met him. And because of the story of that accident, and his tolerance, his forgiveness, and his compassion, he became my role model. And that's hard to do, because my grandfather was an immigrant here, came here at 16 years old, fought in World War I. Sweet. Flag went up every day, came down every night, and it was folded. So this guy, to me, was it. He would tell you what was on his mind, and that was the way it was, and we didn't argue. These days, role models, and I'm going to use Antonio Brown because he seems to be the newest signature. Unfortunately, people look up to him. To me, each and every one of us should want to be Bruce. That's what we should strive to be. Our children should want to be Bruce. And I'm sure that holding this mic, you're looking at these tattoos and going, I don't know what this guy's talking about. But because of the side of the fence that I grew up on, no offense to the law enforcement people, a lot of you probably grew up in a more tolerant society. I did not. So when I met Bruce, he became my role model. He was on our board of directors for Racing for Orphans and helped us raise tens of thousands of dollars to give away to children and gift cards through the Florida Sheriff's Youth Ranch. I just wanted you to know that because we're pretty good guys. If I leave and I'm doing something bad, I don't want you to do it. So Bruce became my role model, and I will think of him and his story and kindness every day of my life. And those values that he had are the same values that I teach and I try to give to these orphan, fostered, and at-risk kids that we meet. Terry, how many? Thousands of them a year. Try to instill those values in Bruce. And to me, that's the memory that in my 72 years of life I will always have. Thanks. Anybody else? Not leaving. There's a lot of you here. We've only had 3 people up here. Dennis? This guy? Oh, you gave the thing, right?
I did the
Yeah. If all these guys don't get up here and share a story, you and me, and we're going to get that guy involved. He's probably got contact.
I'm following your lead. We'll get him.
Okay.
I'm back up. All right. As I shared earlier, my name's John Templeton Jr. My dad right there. And Bruce, man, Bruce, I honestly believe he saved my life. I was so saddened when I heard that. I really took it really hard when I heard Bruce pass. We had always stayed in touch. I came to know Bruce. My first meal with him was at Robbie's Pancake House in Treasure Island. He pulled up in a big old Navigator with big old rims, we remember, and I was there with my mom and dad, and I was 19. And at that period of my life, I was a college student at the University of South Florida. I grew up in this area, still live here. And I had reached out to Bruce because I saw a very moving special called, I believe it's called When Worlds Collide on like NBC. And everybody is probably very familiar with Bruce's story, and I was exceptionally moved by it. I remember just like snot coming down here. I was crying so hard watching it. And at that point in my life, I was not only a college student, I was looking at 15 years in prison, and my life was completely changed because of a terrible choice I made to drink and drive that resulted in somebody's life being ended. And it happened November 23rd, 2002. And I gotta tell you, I grew up in a really normal family, and I never in my life thought I would be in that sort of position. And I know most people now are all pretty much normal people that are all capable of making a bad choice, and that's really how it happens. But I remember how isolated and alone I felt, and I felt like impending doom. I'm 19 and I'm going to be shipped to prison and be forgotten about. And man, all right.
And so anyways, when I saw Bruce's story, and it was locally here in Tampa, I couldn't believe it. There was like, it was amazing. It hit so close to home, and I was just reaching out for help. I was desperate. And so, you know, at that meal, I saw the guy on TV, and one thing about Bruce too, I always remember the little joke when Dean Cain played him played a story in the Hallmark movie, and my dad told Bruce that you know, he's not good looking enough for you to be you, Bruce. And I think both my dad and Bruce actually believe that to be true. So probably. Anyways, you know, so from that moment on, Bruce was in my life, and he worked diligently. It's just like the beautiful part of his story is that, you know, I'm really represent the bad guy in what happened in his life. And the fact was that, I mean, it's like amazing on this planet with all this division, you know, that really over 19 years ago, the guy that had something absolutely terrible to happen to him is trying to save a guy that did that to somebody else because he saw me as a good guy. And he really, I mean, Bruce didn't just, you know, he blazed a trail for people like myself to be able to find something good out of something bad. He always said, John, I don't condone. He never condoned, you know, what happened, but he saw a purpose, and he saw a way to give back. And you know, and I felt I was giving back and helping, trying to prevent. And he was passionate about trying to prevent these kids from making a terrible choice that impacts other people and in their own lives. And so, I mean, I remember the day before sentencing. Bruce was actually knew the victim's family. He actually, the really wild part of the story is that, you know, years before, this family was comforting him when he was going through his time that terrible time in his terrible accident. Now he's comforting them. Meanwhile, he knows me, and he spoke at my sentencing, kept in touch with me. I did 9 months, and I was blessed to be part of. You know, Bruce has beautiful kids, and I know about his family, but I felt like I was the other set of Bruce's kids. It was this like little fraternity and sorority of young men and women that felt so lost, and he gave us like hope, you know, and direction, and a. Okay, about crying. Pause. No, he's fine. I don't care. I don't care. You know, I don't want to talk forever, but you know, I became deeply involved with Bruce. I mean, he was larger than life. He was an angel that came to my family, my life. And I said pause. All right. So anyways, that's how I got to know Bruce. That was 20 years ago. And I have a beautiful, I said I have a beautiful 5 and 7-year-old. I haven't had a sip of alcohol since that accident. My life is completely transformed. And every time I would share with other people that we would go to events where there's Mothers Against Drivers, there's police officers, it was like impact meetings, or you know, people fighting against drinking and drunk drivers, and you know, and he'd introduce me, and he'd always say this. He goes, and this is a great young man right here, John, and he wants to help, and he just like would just, you know, make it so easy. And I remember going to those car shows, and it was fun, it was amazing. I mean, his events were huge. It was really a fun thing to do. He had, you know, Safe Teen Driver. He had all these wonderful events that he helped transform lives. And I can tell you, I think it's impossible to count how many lives he transformed, but here's one for sure. So I'm just grateful for him, and I love you, Bruce, and thank you. I mean, and I do. I'm actually very happy today thinking about what a wonderful man and impact he had on my life. So this is a joyous day to remember Bruce. What a hell of a guy. Thank you.
Actually, I probably don't need to take it off because I'm so short. I'm another one of Bruce's kids, his extended kids. Very similar. I was 19, well, I was 18, a few days before my 19th birthday. I was a USF student, and I was a driver in a fatal accident that claimed the life of my best friend. And it was you, John, who introduced me to Bruce. And I was overwhelmed with how open and forgiving he was, because in my situation, in my story, there was no forgiveness. And Bruce always was like that beacon of hope, that maybe one day things would change, maybe to understand, because all I could see was the damage and the destruction that I had caused. And with Bruce, I got to see a glimpse into life on the other side, that good things could come from terrible, terrible situations. And he gave me a second chance, he gave me a purpose, and he took me under his wing. And again, like, you can feel so isolated and alone, rightfully so, going through these difficult times. And Bruce never made me feel less than. He never condoned the mistakes that I made. He never condoned my choices, but he always made sure I knew that it wasn't the end, and that I had an opportunity to choose what my next step would be. And he was always going to be there to help me take that step. I probably would not be standing here today. I wouldn't be the person I am, or have the little kids I have running around here, without Bruce's guidance. And I know I have seen many of your faces at these events on your incredible bikes, and then John and I get up and ruin the mood at these events. But he was the mentor that I never knew I needed. And he may not be here with us today in person, but I'm forever going to hear his voice in my head every time it comes to share my story, to be that beacon of hope for somebody else going through something difficult. And I hope that you all, just like us, continue to keep him in the back of your mind when you're faced with people on either side of the table. Because one thing Bruce did so well was, like, wipe away all judgments, all thoughts, and just look at the person standing in front of him. And it's such a rare thing to find today. So I'm just so grateful to be here, and to be here surrounded by people who loved Bruce and Bruce loved, because you can just feel it. Thank you.
My name is Dennis Campbell. I'm proud to say Bruce is a friend of mine. I met him through the Racing for Orphans charity through Reverend Jim. He was instrumental, like Jim said, and like all of you previous speakers have said about him. He was a genuine, true-hearted soul. He was somebody to be proud to be called a friend. One of those guys that I actually brought him into my company after meeting him to help out. He was inspirational with all the drivers and riders that used to come in for stuff. And if you don't know this, Bruce was a hell of a cook. He stood out there many days for the driver meetings and cooked hot dogs and hamburgers and helped out all these people and just did stuff out of the goodness of his heart. He was a great guy. And I think what's important is that we're here for a celebration of life, right? Everybody, celebration of life? Everybody know what today is? Today would have been Bruce's birthday. So why don't we put smiley faces on and everybody be happy, and let's sing happy birthday to Bruce.
All right. All right.
Ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bruce. Happy birthday to you. There you go. Celebration. Right on, Bruce.
Yeah, I recorded this after the Bruce's birthday and celebration of life, and I just wanted to add on the end of this, aloha, my friend, aloha, until we meet again. And I wanted to include some pictures that from Bruce's Facebook page at the end of this. They'll just kind of show little snapshots, and you can kind of see what Bruce was thinking about in his life, and from the pictures he left on Facebook. Just an interesting little thing. So I'll end our program with this, just some series of Bruce's pictures. Thank you. Aloha.